Hi there, Rick here. Hey, I wanted to give a little bit more information, a little spread the knowledge a little bit, kind of learn through our hard knocks. Finding the materials that we need. They're easily available, it's just where you need to look for them. So I figured I'd show you kind of the little strategies that I've figured out on where to obtain the different materials that we need to do the projects that we do. Off the bat, what do we need? We need caustic. Okay, caustic. Right here, this one here is 100% lye. Found at True Value Hardware is where I find this. This is an item that they stock. They stock several different types of drain cleaners, but 100% lye, that way you know it is sodium hydroxide. The other one is this one here that I found. Now this Crystal Heat, this is a Home Depot or a Lowe's. They both carry the ZEP product. And with the Crystal Heat, it has little aluminum particles in it. So it's got color to it. One of that I found has a purple little beads in it with aluminum flakes. And then the other one was a yellow beads with aluminum flakes. Both are good caustics. I mean, I have two up and running units, so I know that even when my unit's running, I can touch my coils. Everything is nicely nano-coated. Everything's running fine. Here's another thing we come across. Uh, the metals. The metals. Okay, the metals. So what you're looking at back here is this is a copper pipe. It's just a 1-inch copper pipe, Home Depot. A 10-foot chunk of it is I think about $23 to $25 for 10 feet of a 1-inch copper pipe. That's a lot of surface. But the only downfall is that, and I don't know, I don't really know if it's a downfall, but when I use a copper pipe, it's and I re-nano coat the pipe, I want to clean the surface off, and I'm able to clean the outside of the surface off, but the inside of the surface will still have residues, and I don't know if I'm getting a good nano coating with those surfaces, the oxides that are left on it. So I've kind of I got away from copper pipe, and what I do is I found the pure metals, and what I have here is I have copper, and I just have a couple sheets of copper, and then I have a sheet here of brass, and it's 100% brass, and then the zinc. And I find all of this in one place, and that is, yes, you can go to sheet metal companies in your area, any industrial area, there's going to be a sheet metal supply. But the oddest thing is, the hard one to find, I should say, is this thick zinc. Now, the zinc plate, this is thick. Oh, I'm not really up on my gauges, but it's very tough to bend. Um, but it's good for hanging, hanging in your tubs for gathering your GANs. It's a little, you can't use it for wrapping your batteries. It's just too much. But I found these at, believe it or not, a custom countertop place, and what they do is they make copper countertops. Well, that was the fad, and it still is kind of the fad, but now people are moving over to zinc countertops. And this is a lot, it's, believe it or not, zinc is softer than copper. And but zinc countertops, I just can't imagine all the dents that you would get on them, but hey, whatever you want to spend your money on. Anyways, this metal that we're looking at right here, these two pieces of copper and a piece of this brass, and this is a long piece of brass. I don't know if you see the other end over there. It is there. I got a piece and a half of brass, and that cost me $20. So it's not really expensive, but it is a lot easier to handle when you have these pieces of bigger plate that you can hang. Let's see. Oh, another way of getting zinc. Okay, here's one for you, and this is zinc stripping. And what this is for your roofs, and that's your moss killers. And when you put on the roofing material, they'll put these strips along the whole length of the house, along the roof, and that keeps your moss at bay, supposedly. I saw a post or a comment that you've got to be careful with your zinc when you buy it like this, because if you get the stuff from China, there is supposedly the additives in the metal is not good. So when I looked for it, I was really inquisitive on it. And so looking at it, this zinc right here, it gives the purity of the zinc, and it says it's 99.2%. Now I don't know what that point 0.8 inert is, but it's been working. I wrap it with batteries. I use it for my batteries now. I'll be using it for the GANs also. But also you can see it's made in USA. So, and what this is just a 50-foot roll. It's just zinc stock at any roofing supply. So a place that sells the composite roofing shingles, or your not your metal roofing, but your composite roofing supplies and cedar shake supplies. That's who's going to have this zinc strip, and it's not cheap. This is almost $40 for this roll of zinc, but you can make a lot of batteries out of that. And that takes a lot of batteries. You can roll that right up, and it's real nice and easily pliable. Bends fairly easy. Okay. Let's see. Let's look here. Okay. This is one that I would really like. Okay, our propane bottles that we use, and this one here, I like this. It's self-igniting. It's just a propane. I remember back in the day they would get two for $1. Now I think they're $3 each. But what I found is this thing. Now this, I don't know how many of you guys have seen these, but good old Harbor Freight and Tool. This is a propane bottle refill kit. Refill your little bottles in 1 minute. So this thing really saves you a lot of cost on that. It's because I have a 25-pound bottle of propane, and I have 3 or 4 of these, and I just keep these full, and when it's time I fill up 3 or 4. It takes me about 30 minutes, and but all in all, this saves you a lot of cost because you're able to refill your little ones. I recommend, if you get rust around the end or around the original fill tube, throw it away. It's no good. So just as a precaution, if you get rust around that, don't use that bottle anymore. Throw it away and buy yourself a new one. You can refill that one 10 times. Okay, moving on. So we come back now. Wire. Here's one for you. Wire is, people are like, well, it's just an electrical wire. Yes, it is, but there's a lot of different types of wire. So what we have is, the way I get it, and I've learned, is I buy it by a 500-foot spool, and this is 14 gauge solid copper wire, and this has a plastic sheath on it when I get it. And what I do is I just strip it from the sheath and roll it onto another roll, as you see that here. This is, I've stripped the sheeting off of it. I don't have the room to make up a jig to do the stripping like those auto things, and I stay kind of primitive because I only do one roll at a time. But out of 500 feet, I can get 2 McGrath stackers out of that. One thing you got to keep in mind, when you buy your wire, when you start a length, your long coil is almost 20 feet long. 20 feet of wire makes up your long coil. Am I right? I could be wrong, and that could be 10 feet. But that one there. So always, when you're getting towards the end of your roll, make sure that you don't run out, or that coil's not going to get you any good. Now, another way to buy wire, this is called Romex. And nowadays they color code them, that your 12 gauge is yellow, and then your 14 gauge is white, and then your 10 gauge is going to be orange. But a couple different ways to buy Romex. This is called 12-2, and what that is it's 2 conductors with a ground. The ground's not counted, so they say it's a 12-2. Okay? Well, the key is you're getting 3 pieces of wire. Now, like I say, this right here is costing you $32. Well, you get a 100-foot roll of this for 32, I think actually less than that. But when I priced it out, believe it or not, the Romex was cheaper than buying the spool. And the reason being is you got 4 wires in there versus 1 strand. So, but it's the pain in the butt because you're stripping the outside sheath and then you're stripping those sheaths. But anyways, there's consideration. Look at that. So the other way, and like I was saying, on the different types of Romex, you can get Romex in what's called a 2 conductor, or you can also get Romex that's called a 3 conductor. And you can see how there's 3. There's a white, black, and a red, and the ground. So you actually get 4 wires in there, but they call it a 14-3. Okay, let's move on to, oh, here's another one for you. Testers. Okay, you gotta love Harbor Freight and Tool. This tester here, $5, $7. I got it on sale for like $3, but it's $5 normal price. And I just wanted to double check, make sure I didn't go too cheap, that I wasn't reading the right readings, so I got this one. Then I spent a whole $13 on this one. They work the same. They read exactly the same. I checked all the difference to compare them to each other. They're identical. Don't waste your money on this. It's bulky and all that unless you're doing a clamp-on amp meeting. And that's what, if you wanted to read the amps leaving and entering, that's what this clamp device does. You're able to clamp around your positive wire, and it tells you how many amps you're actually drawing. So that's why you'd use a clamp-on amp meter is what that's called. This here is just a little tiny multimeter. Like I say, Harbor Freight tool. They're really economical, but it is a necessity. You need one of those. It's important. Okay, now here's another one. Mr. Keshe said that titanium was a really good metal. And so I looked at the internet and I Googled titanium and I found it. And believe it or not, you can get this and it's 30 millimeters wide by 300 millimeters long. And it's $7.20. Free shipping. I think it was on eBay. But $7.20. And out of this material right here, I figure that I can get at least 3 to 4 batteries out of that. Now, is it worth it? I don't know. I haven't done the experiment on the titanium versus the zinc versus the aluminum. So I was just going to give this a shot and see how titanium works around that plasma battery that we're going to build. Crystals. Let's look at crystals. So if we come over here, this is another thing I heard, that it's kind of a very good thing to have in your GANs mixtures. When you do mix up your GANs, you want to have a crystal powder in there. Where do you find crystal powder? I don't know. I didn't, and I wasn't patient enough to look on the internet. But I thought, well, I found the crystal, and that's what I needed to find. And that is easier to find than you think. This guy here is at any kitchen utensil supply. It's for grinding herbs and spices and all that kind of stuff. Believe it or not, this is solid granite. This thing is just beautiful. I love it. And it makes a nice powdery quartz dust. But this was $13. And it's nicely machined. It's heavier than my daughter carried it in and complained while she was carrying it. It was so heavy. But anyways, 13 bucks. What I do is I just break off a little piece of this, and I can grind it up and make into my coarse or as powdery as I'd like it. So that was a nice is finding that, because I know you can order it. I saw that Stefan, he had a big bag of it. I don't know where to get it. But so anyways, the battery's dying, so I'm going to wrap this up real quick. I just wanted to show that the crystals I found at a Rockhound supply over in another part of Portland. But this is my idea, is I'm going to take this crystal, I'm going to drill a hole in the bottom of it, and I hope to get almost to the top, fill that with CO2 GANs, and then I will modify my clear unit, because this is the perfect height for this stacker unit. And that I'll replace my GANs balls with this one right here, and maybe I can send out a little bit more piece and help out a lot.